Hi guys, Adam here. In this video, we're going to make a dynamic and interactive body map chart, which is actually really cool if you're collecting any information pertaining to muscle soreness or muscle pain or even injuries. We have a way to do that without any macros or anything like that. So let's take a look at our data set first. It's really simple. We have athletes here. They can be listed multiple times. We have dates here. And then we have body parts broken down. Here we have the head, neck, front, left shoulder, right shoulder. And this could be as many or as little body parts that you collect or that come with your software. And then we have values. And these values indicate, in this case, let's say pain level out of 5. So it could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, with 5 indicating a higher degree of pain and a 1 indicating little pain. And blank means that there was no pain, or the athlete did not indicate pain in that area on that date. So if we look at James Bond on 3/29/2020, he gave a 4 out of 5 pain in his head. That's what it means. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new tab, put that plus button. I'm going to call it reference. I'm going to have a reference sheet. Always have a reference sheet. And I'm going to call this player list. This will be our list of players that we select from for a dropdown. With that being said, so we have a reference. We're also going to have a data viz, kind of like we've done in previous videos. This is where our data is going to be visualized. I say player, and maybe this is where there's a way for me to select a player. I could type in their name or use a dropdown. And I'm not sure what just happened to my, okay, there we go. And then maybe there's date, and we can select a date. Also, for that body map to display information for that date, or we can be creative with that. Now with our player list, let's leave the first one blank, and I have a reason for that, just in case we want to see data from all of our players, all of our athletes at once. That'll give us an opportunity to do that. And then the next formula I'm going to type in is equals unique, asking for an array, and this is the only time that I'm going to go into the sheet and do it this way, but I'm going to go here, I'm going to select all the athlete names, and it'll tell me unique table data athlete. That's the name of my column. I'm going to close it off, click enter, and now what this is doing is going to create a unique list of my athlete names that appear multiple times in this data set. And for example, if I add a row here and I add an athlete and his name is Johnny Rocket, it doesn't really matter. I don't even have to put a date in or anything. I go to this reference sheet. Well, I spelled Johnny wrong, but he's in there. Okay. If I remove him from this data set, he will be gone. And this is important for when we make a drop-down menu. We want this list to automatically update with our athletes, and that's a good way to do that. So let's just create our drop-down menu right now, and then we'll start getting into the body mapping stuff. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to click on this yellow cell, or where I want my drop-down to go to data, data validation, list. And I've gone over this a couple times before, but there are two ways to do this. The first is, I'm telling this where to get my list of people from. Go to my reference. I could select all of this, get out, and click OK. And now I have a drop-down list of people. However, the issue with this is, let's go back to our injury data set. And let's add in Johnny Rocket again. Maybe I'll spell his name right this time. So Johnny Rocket. And because of our formula, he appears in our list. And what this does is it bumps Michael Scott down a little bit. But if I go to my data viz now Michael Scott is gone. He doesn't show up anymore. That's because of the way we did our data validation. So remember, Michael Scott is still in here. I'm going to change the way we do our data validation here to make sure that this is an automatically updating list. Okay, so we're going to type in a formula now. I don't know why I did that. You don't have to stay in this box here. Equals offset, O-F-F-S-E-T, open parenthesis. Then we're going to click the first cell in our list of people. That's right here. Make sure there are dollar signs before the A and before the 2. It should do it automatically. Comma, 0, comma, 0, comma, count, A, open parenthesis, and then we're going to select the column in which our list resides, which is A, right here. It says reference A to A. I'm going to close the parenthesis and then close it again. Close parentheses on the end. Click OK. Now, if I go to this list, Johnny Rocket's still there, and so is Michael Scott. Our whole list is here. And now, now let's see what happens when we remove Johnny Rocket from our data set because we don't need him in there anymore. Delete him. Go to our reference list. Notice because of our formula, he's not in this list. If we go to our data viz in our drop-down menu, he's not in this list. Okay, so we have a dynamic drop-down menu. Cool. That really has nothing to do with body mapping, but it gives us something cool for our interactions to occur. And now we can start with the actual mapping stuff. And the first thing that we're going to do is create a table. I'm going to call this body map XY table. I don't know. Make it bold. Let's just make sure that we indicate that there's something going on here. And I'll make this gray. And now we can create our table, our first table. So I'm going to just highlight a bunch of cells, insert table, and I'm going to say my table has headers, even though it doesn't right now. I'll leave that alone for this second. Go into my injury data. I'm going to click on the first column. All I want is a list of my body parts. That's the purpose of this. I'm going to hold down Shift, select the last one, just make sure they're all selected. I'm going to right-click and copy them when I do have them selected. Then I'm going to go into my reference here. I'm going to right-click, transpose. I'm going to right-click, and because for whatever reason, oh, no, it's fine. So I'm going to go to the text, and instead of rotating it up, I'm going to click that off. So now it's rotated sideways so that I can read them. I'm going to do Control X, which is a cut. So it's essentially copying, and then when I paste them into my table, they should go away. I'm going to right-click on the first column, first row in the first column of my table. I'm going to paste. They went away. Now they're in here. I'm going to call the first column body part, the second column X, third column Y, the next one called order, and the last one called value. So there should be 5 columns in your table, and all your body parts should be here. For order, I'm going to fill this in right now. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't really matter. If you highlight the 3, Excel will if you just highlight the 3 and double click on this crosshair here, Excel knows what to do. And it'll go all the way down, and we have 41 body parts. Okay, each of them has a number, and that number is essentially their column number. So the order that they are column-wise, going from left to right. This is important, and I'll show you why in a little bit. What we're going to do first is we are going to create our scatter chart for our body map. And the way that we do that is we're just going to go to Insert here, Scatter Chart, and just make sure that there's some data in it. I think I was clicked on the table when I did it, so there's data. But let's try it without, and I'll just show you how to do it. So let's say I'm not on the table. I go to Insert, Scatter Chart. There's going to be no data. I'm going to go to Format Chart Area. I'm going to go to Picture or Texture Fill, and it's going to give me some sort of texture probably. Depends on what you last used. And by the way, if you click on this little texture button, you can choose a different background. But we're not interested in that. We're interested in a picture fill. So there's a place that says Picture Source. I'm going to go Insert. And of course, nothing is popping up. There should be something that says File. Oh, it looks like it's there. It's just not showing up. My computer is all messed up right now. Let's try that again. Okay, let's try that maybe again and again. Okay, now it came up. All right, from a file, a desktop, and I have a body map image kind of saved. I'm going to click on that. And now look, my background is a body map for this scatter chart. And now what I have to do is I have to right click and select data. And I'm going to go add series, and I'm just going to call this XY. It doesn't really matter what the series name is, but for the series X values, I'm going to select everything that's in here in my X column. Get out of that. Then for my Y values, let's get out of there. And let's select everything in our Y column right here. Click OK. Click OK. And there's no data. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the title. This is important, okay? Remove the title if you're not going to want a title on there. And I'm going to set the axes. This is going to help us design this thing. Let me actually first, this will also help us see. I'm going to go to View. Oh, I can't. I'm going to click off the chart, go to View, and I'm going to click Grid Lines Off. Okay? And if I click them on, see how the grid lines show up? I'm going to click them off. This is for a very specific purpose. It's because we're going to go through a somewhat painful process, but it'll be fun. So I'm going to right click Format Axis for the Y-axis. I'm going to set the minimum. See how it says auto there? If I click 0 and I click enter, now it's automatic. Now it's set to 0. And I can reset it if I want to auto, but I want it to be 0. And for the maximum, I want it to be 100. Click enter. And for the units, the major units, 10. Click enter. So now all these things are static, no matter what. And that's kind of important because you don't want to, you'll see in a little bit. Now on the bottom, I'm going to right click, Format Axis, do the same thing, 0, enter, 100 as the maximum, and the major units, see again, I don't want it to be 20, I want it to be 10, that'll help me, and let's get out of there. The body map is very, maybe I actually go to 110, I'm going to go to 110 in each of these categories. Format Axis, let's go to 110. And what I'm looking for right now, I might even have to go higher, 120. 120 here. Yeah, all right, I'm going back to 100. Sorry, guys, for this. I thought something would happen, but it's not happening. I'm changing both the axes to now notice, so 0 to 100, both of my axes, okay, going by tens. If this worked, why is this up here? If this worked the way I wanted to, it might be a little bit different, but that's okay. Now we're going to start plotting our body parts. And we're going to do that by using the X and Y axes. So for head, for example, where does that fall? Where do we want it to fall? Well, it looks like, it's about 100 for the Y. It looks like it's about 20 for the X. So if I type in 20 for the X and 100 for the Y, I'm going to get a point somewhere. And, maybe that's a little bit too far over this way. Maybe it's more like 18 on the X. I don't know. Maybe it's more like 95 on the Y, and maybe 98. I don't know. So maybe that's where my head point is. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this for every part of the body. I'm going to do a few, and then I'm just going to, you don't have to watch me do it, so I'm just going to pause it and do the rest of them, and then you'll see what it looks like. But neck front, well, that's about the same for the X as the head, 18, because it's lined up. But it looks like it's about like 85 for the Y. Let's try that. 84. Yeah, that's fine. That's about 85 looks better. Let's do that. And the left shoulder, remember this is the left side, so it looks like it's about 80 and that lines up pretty well, 80 and 30. So I'm gonna go 30, 80. That's okay. And for the right shoulder, we're still at 80, and maybe it's in between these two, so it's about 5. Let's go 80 and 5. Yeah, let's go 6. And the whole purpose, this is just a rough estimation for right now. We're going to fine tune this in a little bit. Take note though, just take note what happens. Actually, here, let's do a couple on the back too. So what can I do on that back? The butt is on the back, right? So where's butt? Left butt. That's over here. Should have probably said glutes, but whatever. So it looks like it's about 45 and 75 for the left one. So I'm going to go here. Let me just zoom out. It'll probably be easier to do that. Left butt, 75, 45. And when we do that, we get a point there. And, you know, maybe it's a little bit higher than that. Maybe it's like 77 and maybe it's like 73. And maybe it's like 47. I don't know. And for the right side, again, let's keep, the nice part is that the Y generally stays consistent. So 73, and let's go, 47, and let's go with 85, 84. Okay, so what's going to happen is ultimately when we have this body map, we're not going to want the axes here. So I'm taking note of how far it moves when I change the axis. So if I delete that, now I'm looking at where is the head. The head looks like these ones didn't move very much, if at all. The backside might not move at all, but looks like now it's at about 25, 24, 23, and we had it at 18. So let's just make a note that there's about a 5-point difference when we remove that axis. And let's remove this one too. Did it move over to the left too? It moved over to the left a little bit. So yeah, maybe there's a 5-point difference, and let's add the axes back. Let's just remove this one. Yeah, maybe there's like a 2-point shift there. So I have a 5 and a 2, a 5 shift for the X and a 2 shift for the Y. It looks like these also shift. These shift to the right and down. It's going to be hard to track, but at least it'll give us an estimation. And now I'm going to add the axis back in. And just pay attention to those numbers. I'm going to fill out the rest of the points on my own. You can do that too, and I'll be back in a sec. So here's what my body map looks like when I have it kind of filled out, even though I know things are going to shift, so I shifted them over a little bit. And once you have all your points with your X's and your Y's, you can remove the axes. I'm going to remove that axis. I'm going to remove this axis. And most of my stuff is lined up because I kind of knew where it was going to go, but some of it's not. And you can identify those points. For example, the head and the neck area for me, the X needs to shift over. So let's see what happens if I go to 21, maybe 22. Notice it moves closer to the head. The neck should be in the same area, 22. The shoulder needs to go over. That's the left shoulder, 30, let's say 33, 4. And maybe I want the right shoulder down. Maybe I want the left shoulder up one. Let's say 81, 82. Okay, so this looks okay, right? Why do I have two spots? The wrist is off. So I got the upper arm, lower arm, the wrist. Maybe I even switch the wrist to the other side. So the left wrist right now, I have it on the front of the body. Maybe I want it on this side of the body. Let's see what happens if I do 60. All right, that got kind of close. 60, 52. Oh, all right, that works pretty well. 52 for the other one too, and let's go like 80, 100. That's too far. 90, 98, 97, 96. And these hands maybe, or at least this hand, this left hand, I might want to shift, or this is actually the right hand. I want to shift over a little bit. So 3. Okay, and you can adjust these at any time. I actually want to move the ankles up too, or the ankles. Maybe I'll move the ankles up to just by 1 or 2 each. Eight. Okay, fine. So now we've identified all the points on our body. I don't need these anymore. That's okay. Now the next step, or the next thing that we're going to do, is we are going to create a value field. And what this is going to be is this is going to be a value of the severity of pain. And that can be based on multiple things. We could literally just take the severity value, or the average severity value, over the entire period of injury data. But what I want to do is I want to take this value, and I want this value to respond to what I do in here, so that it is reflected by the manipulations that I make. So what I'm going to do, and you can do this a bunch of different ways, is I'm going to categorize 4 scenarios. And I'm just going to write this down here so that we can see them. Scenario 1, there's no name, but yes date. 2, there's yes name, but no date. 3, yes name and yes date. 4, no name and no date. So these are 4 different scenarios, and maybe I want something different to happen in each of these scenarios. For example, no name but yes date here. So I don't pick a name, but there is a date. Maybe I want the average injury. Maybe I want the average soreness and all the locations to be pinpointed based on that date for all my athletes. And maybe when there is a name but there's no date, I want the average soreness or average pain and all the locations for whatever athlete I have selected with the name for their entire presence in the data set. And if there's yes name and yes date, I want the injuries for that athlete, or the pain for that athlete for that date. And if there's no name and no date, maybe I want all my areas for all my pain, soreness areas for all my athletes for all the dates in the data set. Okay, we'll just go with that philosophy. And you can, all this is being used to do is to maybe work on a little bit of Excel skills and illustrate the ability to show this stuff dynamically. So let's write this formula. It starts with equals if. Equals if. So if, let's go with the first scenario. If there's no name and yes a date. So we're going to go if and, because there are 2 criteria. If and no name, right? So if this, I don't know why my thing went away. If this, whatever's in this cell, is equal to blank, and with a comma, whatever is in this cell, I'm locking the cells in, is not equal to blank. If those 2 things are true, in other words, if there's no name but there is a date, comma, then, and I'm going to do this in a way where I kind of, I like alt, and I held down alt and clicked enter. I like separating things out because it's easier to read, easier for me to understand. If those 2 things are true, then I want average ifs. And actually, we're going to end up doing this somewhere else, but you'll see. Never mind, I'll get into that in a second. Average ifs, table, data. Now we have a problem because we can't match this to a body part because each column is a separate body part. And we'll see how we work around this in a second. We want the average of the soreness or pain for the head area, comma. We're using head as an example. When table data, date, comma, sorry for the pause, is equal to this date, right? Because we don't care about the athlete name because it's blank. We just want the average soreness for that date. And let's just close this off for a second, okay? Because I want to show you something. What we're going to do with all these things, except for the item that we're looking at, or the area of the body that we're looking at, is we're going to lock in this column. Okay, so the way that I'm going to do that, just like locking in a cell column, but it's just done in a different way. I'm going to do another open square bracket here, do a colon, another open square bracket here, and select date or type in date and do a double square bracket. And now what this is going to do is if I drag this across somewhere, it's going to hold the date constant equal to that date, but it'll change the area of the body that I'm looking at, okay? And now let's continue on with this formula. So comma. So we got scenario 1 covered. Now it's just kind of a copy and paste job. So I'm going to, I clicked Windows. If I copy this, paste it here, and I say, you know what? Now we want yes name but no date. So if the name or dative is B1 is not equal to blank, and the date is equal to blank, then Alt Enter, copy this over. We still want the average of that head column or head field soreness, but instead of the date being equal to B2, we just want when the athlete, again, it's locking that column, equal to dative is B1. So if there is a name but there's no date, then we want the average soreness in the body part for that athlete of all time, nothing to do with dates. Now the third piece of criteria, Alt Enter, let me make this bigger. If and yes name and yes date. So if the name is not blank and the date is not equal to blank, Alt Enter, then we want the average ifs. Now there are two ways to do this. I think that this is an easier way to do it. So we want the average of the soreness of the head if the athlete is equal to whatever athlete we select, comma, and we already wrote this criteria. So I'm going to copy table data date and what the date is referring to when we select it and paste that in. And I typed in an L, which shouldn't be there. And I typed in a 1, I guess that shouldn't be there. So now we're saying if there is a date or a name present and a date present, then we want to get the average soreness for the athlete that we select and the date that's entered. Now Alt Enter, and now we're going to do this one more time. Copy paste the last one. No name and no date. So if the name or dative is B1 equals blank and the date equals blank, then I hold down Alt, clicked Enter. We want the average ifs, and there isn't really any other criteria here, but I want to keep the formula consistent. So I'm going to say average ifs, table data head, and table data head, comma, not equal to blank, or 0. No, blank, fine. Now we're just getting the average, regardless of athlete and regardless of date, soreness for that area, if both of those things are blank. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close that off. Okay, click Enter. Now, what happened? So now we're getting, the only thing that we're considering right now is head. And that applies to the neck front, that applies to the left shoulder, it applies to a bunch of things. We don't want that. We want this value to be representative of the criteria for whatever body part we select. Now, we did this in a smart way, okay? So I'm going to copy this formula. I'm going to paste it right here. And then I'm going to remove this stuff because it annoys me. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this formula across this way. Okay, I'm going to drag it across like 3 times. And then I'm going to edit the formula to do an if error statement. But in any case, you should see what's going on. I moved it across. Now look at this. So we're looking at the table data, the average soreness for the head when the date is equal to that and the athlete is equal to that, etc. Now the next one. Now we're looking at the neck front. Now we're looking at the left shoulder. Again, all the other criteria is the same. Now we're looking at the right shoulder. So why did we have this order column? It's just in case, like if I were to sort this by head, and I did this and I pasted these formulae in here, they wouldn't match up right with the order of the columns. So I'm just going to resort this by order, just in case you did sort this table or something. And notice that, so this is neck front, the third one is left shoulder, fourth one is right shoulder, and that's the way that it is here. It goes head, neck front, left shoulder, right shoulder, etc. So when I go here, I'm going to go to my first one and say if error, open parenthesis, and then at the end of this thing, I'm going to do comma, quote, quote, or blank. So if there's an error, make it blank. That's my final formula. And essentially, I'm copying this for every body part right now. So I'm going to grab on the end. I'm just going to drag this across for a long time. Now, what we know is that there are 41 body parts. So I'm going to click here. And if I look on the bottom part of my screen and I'm going to hold down Shift and click on W, I'm at 10 right now. So if I just keep on kind of going to the side, arrow to the side while holding down Shift, there's 41. I got all 41 of my body parts. I'm going to right click, copy this formula, click on the first cell in the value field in my table, right click and transpose. Okay. Now we have the head. Look, we're looking at head and we're aligned with head body part. What about the next one? Neck front, and we're aligned with the neck front body part. And I'm going to go all the way to the bottom just to confirm. Neck back, and we're looking at the neck back body part. So now these values align with the body part they're associated with. Okay, I'm going to go here and just remove these because I don't need them. Now the fun starts to begin. This was a lot of tedious work, and at this point, we're kind of at a point where you can almost just do this as it is, but I want categories. I want red, orange, and yellow categories, and I want the severity. Essentially, I want the value in this cell to determine which category or which color this dot is. In other words, if it's a 5, I want it to be red. If it's a 1, maybe I want it to be yellow. And if it's a 2 or through 4, maybe I want it to be orange. I don't know. And we're going to give ourselves the ability to dynamically manipulate those colors and just have those colors in general. So let's start by defining what those, I guess, categories are. I'm going to create another table. And let's just make it the same as this one, because we can make this so we can define by body part kind of what those categories are. I'm just going to select a bunch of cells here all the way down to the bottom. And I'm going to go to Insert, Table. My table has headers. Okay. Oh, this thing is, let's move this body map over. Let's move it out of the way for now. Okay. Oops, I kind of screwed that up, but that's okay, because if I click on my table here, or table design, I think, I never remember where this is. Well, as long as I'm in table design, I'm going to do TBL underscore category. Okay, this is where I set my categories. I'm going to right click in here, insert, table rows above, insert, or I just needed one row, and then I'm going to select my whole table. And notice it's one row beneath. You don't have to do all this. I like to be organized. So there we go. First column, body part. Okay. Second column. These are however many or however few categories you want. You can create them here, and you need a minimum and a maximum. So I'm going to say red max, red min, OJ max, OJ min, yell. I'll just say yell max, yell min. And I don't need these. I don't need these columns. Okay. Body part. To keep things consistent, I'm going to say this body part equals whatever's in here. The reason why I'm doing that is because if I decide to sort this table, for whatever reason, even though this is a reference, this will come along for the ride, and these values will also come along for the ride. Okay, so What I'm going to do here is I am going to set my red max, which is 5, and my red minimum, so it might be 4. Right, so pretty much if I say in my next table, if I say greater than or equal to, it's going to be a value of a 4 or a 5 is going to be red. And let's go 3.99 as the max for orange, and maybe 2. So that means between a 2 or a 3 is going to be orange. And let's go 1 and 0.1 for yellow. Copy all those values and let's paste them here. And now what this gives us the ability to do is it gives us the ability to say, well, actually, let me just test this. Let's say 3 arm lower. Yeah, no, so that's not going to work. What I should do is I should just copy these and paste them here. I don't want to refer to these cells here. But in any case, for head, neck, all these things I can customize. If I wanted the head to be a 3 to a 5 and just to be 2, 1, I don't know, I'm making it up. You have the ability to customize what colors indicate what per body part. That's all this is. Okay. Now, the final step or the final table that we're going to create is going to be X and Y coordinates that segregate out these categories so that only when the criteria fits within a given category, we show the XY coordinates, and that's important. So I'm going to create another table. Okay. Insert table. Again, the body map is just, I didn't mean to do that, but let's move this over. We're almost there, guys, I promise. So go body part. I'm going to say red X, red Y, OJX, OJY, yell, standing for yellow X, yell Y. Delete those. Okay. Body parts. I'm just going to copy these again. Paste them in here. Okay. Now we write formulae to get this done. And it's really not that complicated once you kind of get it. We already did our complicated stuff here, which is our interactive experience. And now we just need to categorize things. So say equals if and this value, or sorry, if and this value is greater than or equal to this value, comma, so and this value is also less than or equal to this value, close the parenthesis. If those two things are true, comma, then we want the x coordinate. Okay? Let's just close this off for a second. Now we can quickly gauge this, okay? And I suggest do not sort these tables. I don't know why I made them into tables, to be honest. Do not sort them. They always have to be lined up with each other or else it's not going to work. False. Value of a 3. Is that between 4 and 5? No, it's not. Okay, that makes sense. 22 is the x-coordinate. Is this value between 4 and 5? Yes, it is. Great. All these other ones? No, until we get to here. It's between 4 and 5. All right, things are working. Now, the last piece of this formula is we don't want false to show up if this isn't true. We want to do comma, NA, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and then close it off. Click enter. Then I'm even going to caveat this or close this off with if error, if there's an error with any of this formula going on here, comma, I want it to be NA. This is important for the graphing aspect of the body map. Now, I'm going to copy this formula, paste it right here. But instead of getting the X value, we want the Y value. Now, we can copy both of these, paste them here, and instead of red min and red max, we're just going to change these to OJ. So now if it's between the OJ min and OJ max for this column, we're getting the X value. Click OK. And now for this, we're going to change red to OJ again, red to OJ again. So now we're getting the X value and the Y value for those items that are in between whatever we set here, 2 and 3.99. And that's 3, it is between them. So they appear here and they don't appear here. And now we're going to copy this formula over to the next one. And we're going to change OJ to YEL. So instead of OJ max, let's go to YEL max. And instead of OJ min, let's go to YEL min. Now we're looking at those two values. Click OK for the X value for the first column. And now it automatically moves on to the Y. And let's change OJ to YEL. And let's change OJ to YEL. Okay. All right. Now we're pretty much there. The last thing that we have to do is let's take our good old body map here. And instead of getting all the parts on our body, which we did here through this XY thing, let's create a couple series. So I'm going to select data. I'm going to edit this one. And I'm going to call this high pain. Doesn't really matter what you call it. And for the X values, I'm going to remove that. I'm going to go to my red X's and select that here. And for my Y values, I'm going to remove that. I'm going to select my red Y values here. Click OK. Click OK. Now I want to take a second and pause, because now what we're seeing here are only the red values for whatever this criteria is. And right now we have no player name and no date. And we'll see how this works in a minute. But all we have to know for now, I don't know why I'm clicking around so much. All we need to know for now is that these are our reds, and we should color code them. And I have a couple different ways that we can do that. I have a way that I like, but I'm going to show you the most simple way first. So if you click on any of the dots and you right click, you can format the data series. And I don't know what just happened, but if you go over here into this formatting area, you go to marker options, you can do a bunch of things. I'm going to say built in, here maybe I want it to be a circle, maybe I want the size to be 12, big old circle there, and maybe I want the fill to be a solid fill, and I want the fill to be red. And maybe I want the border to be no line, and I want the transparency to be 50, so you can kind of see through it. Okay, that's one way to do it. And I'll do all the dots kind of like this. And what you'll quickly notice, at least for me, is, some of these things need to be adjusted. And you can just go to your XY coordinates here. Like, let's actually move this over. Let's move this over for now. Move it over. If I can even see where it is. Let's move this over. And I notice here, for example, this right elbow is a little bit too far over to the right. So this right elbow, instead of 93, maybe I do 92. Okay, that's better. You can easily kind of go through this and adjust the XY coordinates, and they'll update, and they'll be systematically updated. Now let's do our second series. Right click, select data, add. Let's go mod pane. Doesn't really matter what you call it unless you're going to show a legend. And I'm going to select the X values, which are right here. And the Y values for the orange, which are right here. Click OK. And they happen to be orange already, which is fine. I'm going to click on one of them, right-click, Format Data Series, go to the fill, go to the marker, solid fill. Sorry if I'm going through this a little bit fast. And I'm going to pick orange. Transparency 50. Let's just make it consistent. No border around the circles. And if I click on the marker options here, built in 12. So make them big, just like the other ones. And yeah, they're pretty big. And again, we can maybe I'll go, yeah, fine. Let's go manipulate a couple of these areas just because they're not necessarily accurate. I know they're hard to see, but I know this butt and this calf and the hand. So the right butt, calf, wrist need to move over to the left a little bit, maybe the neck, back of the neck a little bit. So neck of the back, let's go 77 instead of 78. Should be more centered. It is. The right butt should be, right now it's 85. Let's see what happens if I go to 83. That's a little bit more centered. The calf, right calf, maybe that's also 83. I don't know. Yeah, it moves over to the center a little bit more in the hand or the wrist. Let's just move that over 1, I think. So the right wrist, let's go 95. Yeah, that's kind of tough, but in any case, that's fine. Okay, now let's add our final series of dots with the yellows. So right-click, select data, add a series, let's say low paying, go to our X values, and let's select everything we got in here. Close that. Y values, select everything we got in here. Oops, make sure that we select all of it. Click OK, click OK. Where are those dots? Oh, here's one. They're gray. And I right-click, Format Data Series. Let's fill. Let's go to the marker options. Let's go 12 again, just to make it consistent. They're kind of big, honestly, but let's go solid fill. Maybe I fill it this. Maybe I fill it yellow. No line. Transparency. Let's go 50, kind of like all the other ones. Let's exit out. And now what we have here is we have a body map of sorts. And I don't need these lines anymore. I'm going to remove them. Remove the grid lines on them. Okay. I'm going to copy this report, or you can cut it. Go to my data viz. And let's paste it in here. All right. Cool. Got a body map. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to maybe fill this whole area in white. I don't know, just for now. And let's keep these yellow though. And now let's select a person. So now what this is telling me is that this is Billy Madison. His these are his injuries of all time. And let's go to let's see a date. 3/29. Does he have any injuries on that date? No, it doesn't look like it. Let's filter him down. Here. All right, 3/30. Now if I type in 3/30, 2020, these were his injuries on that day. And likewise, I could go to someone else and someone else on that date. She had no injuries, and maybe she didn't have injuries that day, but let's check her out. Where is she? Looks like she had one on 4/2, so go 4/2, 2020. All right, she had one. Now I'm going to remove the format chart area. I am going to remove the border from this. Now there's no border around it. And what I'm also going to do, this is a pretty cool trick. I use PowerPoint to do this, but I say pretty much I use an icon, a health icon, if you will, and you could change the data to do that. I'm going to remove this date so that we have her injuries of all time and I have all the colors. But you can format, you can get kind of creative with these data points. So I'm going to right click, format this data series, fill, go to marker, and I'm going to go picture or texture fill. And now I'm going to insert a picture source from a file that I have. And I have 3 pictures. What I did is in PowerPoint, I created a health icon, and on that health icon, I colored it, either yellow, orange, or red, and then I saved it as a picture on my computer. So I don't remember which one yellow is, but I'm going to pick on one. I think it might have been 2. And now I have a yellow icon that I can adjust maybe the transparency is 70, no, maybe it's 30, and maybe the marker fill is a little bit bigger. Maybe it's 14, I don't know. And I'll do the same thing with the red ones. Right click, format data series. Let's go to picture texture fill, insert from a file, picture 3. I think that's red. It looks orange to me. Let's try that again. Let's go to picture 1. Now that looks red. Transparency, let's go to 30, just like the yellow one. And, oh wait, I changed the yellow. All right, so the yellow dots should be yellow. These are orange, so I picked the wrong picture. Let me format these data series again. Marker, insert, but you get the point here. Maybe it might have been picture 3. Yeah, so picture 3 is orange, transparency is 30, and these yellow dots, format data series. Let's go to picture texture fill, insert. I'm already lost with the pictures. Maybe it was 1. Nope, not 1. File, picture 3. Nope, not picture 3. I think it's picture 2 is the yellow ones. All right, cool. So now I have yellow, orange, and red kind of health indicators, and we can go to the marker and make them all 14. Go to the yellow ones, and let's also make them 14. All right, and now we have an interactive sort of body map, and that's all I got. I hope you had fun in this video, and let me know if you have any questions. I hope it's helpful. Thanks for watching.